For some reason, you thought that it was going to be the same meta as the OCG. Sprite this, sprite that. But your boy already told you. It's a new Yu-Gi-Oh meta. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day, phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. The European Championship actually completely changed the Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta on its head. Even before Rika going undefeated, not dropping a single match and winning the entire event, there were some really good takes that you can implement inside of your Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game from this event to help you become a better player. Today, not only are we going to be learning the information that the championship provided for us, we're also going to make some interesting takes and see if those points actually stick, as well as provide you some deck lists for some of the topping and winning decks. Now, at the time of making this video, I wanted to point out that it is incredibly hard to get the same information that we get on our TCG meta analysis than our European counterparts, mainly because there's no blog for Konami in Europe. I have scoured the entire internet. I checked it all. Road to the King, Carlancho, Pornhub. I actually found the new Dragon Ball Z movie before I would find that. I mean, seriously, at this point in time, I think it'd be more likely for my dad to actually come home with that milk than for us to actually get the top 128, 64, 32 breakdown. But you know what? It's actually okay. I'm pretty sure you guys will help out in the comment section. And then there's also my Discord if you want to talk more about the European Championship and events alike. But with all that out of the way, I won't waste any more of your time. Let's start talking about what exactly happened. So the European Championship consisted of 2,078 non-grass touchers. That's actually amazing at how many people literally decided not to touch grass and play Yu-Gi-Oh! That day. Recall, this European Championship is actually the biggest event to happen for Yu-Gi-Oh! In Europe. That's actually really good for the growth of the game. Me personally, I actually like that there's championships all across the globe in their respective country. I think that that's extremely cool. But to bring us back down to earth, one of the cards that I think was a complete game changer at the event was Dimensional Shifter. Now, you're actually not going to hear me talk too highly about hand traps for the rest of this video, so hand trap gang, this is your time to shine. But Dimensional Shifter was a mega impactful in every single stream that we watched because it's not the same as the other hand traps. Unlike most hand traps in our Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game that trades one card in our hand for one disruption, Dimensional Shifter shuts down the entire turn for most Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks. This was actually the biggest of brain moves that I've probably seen throughout the event because the sprite strategy in itself isn't hurt too bad by Dimensional Shifter, at least not as bad as decks that abuse Chaotic Ruler to Chaotic Magical Dragon, which should be banned. And tier limit players, I personally think that if your deck could use Dimensional Shifter, you should strongly consider playing it. Another card that was extremely huge for the tournament was, of course, your buddy, your friend, Mystic Mine.
Mystic Mine is extremely interesting because it feels like a card that should be addressed on the next Forbidden list. But do you really want to deal with a tier limit in sprite format?
Floodgate Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards at this point in time have become a necessary evil. They're preventing sprite and tier limit from dominating the format and keeping so much in balance. This is as healthy as stage 4 cancer right now. It's also extremely crazy that both Mystic Mine and Rivalry of the Warlords were not only a huge deciding factor for the European Championship, but also extremely huge for the North American Championship. It's like those same two cards are a problem for some of the top meta decks. Right now, it's genuinely pick your poison, and since players weren't playing enough back row hate, Solemn Judgment not only shined as a card to stop the small back row hate that was prevalent, it also stopped some really important board breaker cards. Dark Ruler no more? Forget about it. Forbidden Chalice without discarding a trap card? Forget about it. Harpy's Feather Duster to destroy the Mystic Mine?
It will go into his direction by nature, because if he's able to set up
Harpy's Feather Duster, he actually drew it off of the design. Judgment was activated, protecting the Mystic Mine. The old man says no again to the Harpy's Feather Duster.
You want to forget about that? One thing that you might want to forget about is Trift's theory that you must place at least 15 hand traps inside of your deck. That may no longer might be true, but if I were to go a little bit further, hand traps suck. I mean, to be fair, I've been saying this for quite some time, so it's not really controversial that I'm saying it. In a format where players just continue to combo past your hand traps unless you open multiples, it's a lot easier to let your opponent build their board and then break it with board breaking cards than to hand trap them. But let's go ahead and see if this theory is proven correctly, as the top 8 for the European Championship is a little bit different than what it would be in the top 4 in the finals. The top 8 for this event consist of 1 Altergeist, 1 Rika, 2 Tier Limit, and 4 Sprite. Now there's actually a difference between these 4 Sprite variants. One of them's Live Twin, one of them's Adventure, and 2 of them are Pure. I want to give a congratulations to Ryan as we jump into his deck profile, and as you can see, this deck definitely does not play 15 hand traps. What I find really interesting about this particular build is that Ryan doesn't even play a lot of the same board breaker cards. 2 Super Polymerization, a Dark Ruler No More, and 1 Triple Tactics Talent. I mean, it's almost a head scratcher. He then follows it up with 2 Ash Blossom, 2 Crow, and 3 Infinite Impermanents. I think personally, these are some of the stronger hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think that it's really interesting to see Ryan's version of the deck mix hand traps and board breaker cards, because sometimes you really do want to see a hand trap, and then there are other times where you really want to see your board breaker. But overall, Mans does play a ton of board breaker cards with cards like Ultimate Slayer inside of the sideboard, as well as a Dark Ruler No More and a Harpy's Feather Duster. Notice the lack of back row removal. We probably should not see something like this again. Now, as we move into the top 4, Sprite pretty much got clapped up, taking 50% of the representation of top 8 and then bumping all the way down to 25% is huge. We have 1 Sprite, 1 Tier Limit, 1 Rika, and 1 Mystic Mind. I mean, seriously, if you've looked at this Altergeist deck, it's pretty much Mystic Mind. You know what? Let's take a look. I want to congratulate Lars for topping with his Altergeist deck, because regardless of what it is, he still made top 4 in a European Championship, and this particular build is running 2 of the better hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh!, with Psyframe Gear Gamma arguably being the best hand trap if you can't play Dimensional Shifter. Oh wait, hold on, he's actually playing Dimensional Shifter in the sideboard. Never would have guessed, right? This particular deck is literally centered as Mystic Mind being the win condition and taking advantage of players not playing back row disruptive cards. He's not even playing back row disruptive cards, which is crazy right now. Lars also plays some perfecto board breaker cards like Lava Golem and Sphere Mode, but in the sideboard you can also see Floodgate cards like Rivalry of the Warlords, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, and then of course that Solemn Judgment to stop the Harpy's Feather Duster. This deck is literally built on taking away your opponent's biggest play, and under Mystic Mind, Melusi can actually whittle down your opponent's board all the way up until you feel like actually playing Yu-Gi-Oh! If you decide to not go through time with Mystic Mind. Now I do find it interesting that the last Sprite deck standing is Mateo's Sprite deck, because it's a Live Twin variant. This particular build actually does play all of the hand traps. It's kind of incredible. Between the Ghost Bells, the Ghost Ogres, the Ash Blossoms, the Imperms, the Nibirus, the Gammas, this actually disproves the rule just a little bit. I think one of the best board breaker cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That players are not paying attention to is Enemy Controller. This can actually be really good for breaking a Tier Limits player's board and potentially getting an Evil Twin Link monster off your field to resummon. It also allows you to dodge hand traps in itself. And of course, boomers like me love to see Enemy Controller inside of the format. It's literally a top 5 best spell card right beside Book of Moon of all time. I'm a Yu-Gi boomer in a Yu-Gi boomer world. Coming in second place was Zeo with Danger Tier Limits, and this deck is pretty good. I legitimately did not know that this deck can make so many amazing plays, but the best thing about Tier Limit is that your opponent won't know exactly what to respond to, because you really don't even know your ending combo sequence. Being able to make Topologic Bomber Dragon and Topologic Zero Boros are game-ending cards against a lot of strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh! And can be triggered easily with monsters like Fairy Tail Snow and your Gizmek Orochi Serpentine. I would say that this man is a complete mad lad for playing 0 hand traps inside of the deck, but he actually has his defenses covered with Super Polymerization and Dark Ruler No More. And then for the sideboard, he has Floodgates and even more going second cards like Sphere Mode and Deck Devastation Virus. Overall, I think that this will be the template for the Tier Limit strategy, as its ceiling is ridiculously high, and hand traps just don't seem to roll with this deck as well as the board breaker cards, and Tier Limit, in my opinion, is better than Sprite. I mean, but you gonna take advice from me? Really? I mean, I did say Rico was one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Before it won the European Championship. Maybe you should take advice from me. What's really funny is that I was so hyped about Rika last Friday on Twitch. I made a combo video explaining to you why this deck is cracked, And yeah, it just so happens to win the whole thing. Marcus's Rika strategy is actually fairly basic once you understand how to play Rika. It's centered around the field spell in Rika Cone, which players did not read correctly, because this card allows you to tribute your opponent's monsters for your Rika cards, and your Rika cards tribute for cost. This literally is the best board breaking card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Tributing off their cards before they can respond. If you go first, you activate the Cone to be able to set up your combo. If you're going second, you activate the Cone, your opponent is forced to negate it. And then you can just follow up with your combo because the Rika strategy is so ridiculously consistent, it only takes one card to be able to accomplish that feat. Ultimately, this does show a few things about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta. Hand traps may not be as powerful as people think. Board breaker cards seem to be the wave. Also, it is not a tier 0 format. Sprite and tier limit are fairly good, but other strategies can be just as good. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, if you want to see more amazing content, be sure to check out these videos to improve your game. But also, I'm streaming today, Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Twitch. I hope to see you there.